1,000 imaginary customers who spend real money before your business even exists. Let's see if it's brilliant or just another bad idea.
And this is Business Roulette. What we're actually doing is we try to evaluate one business idea each time really, really quickly. So when you think about new business ideas as an entrepreneur, you can either go and build a product and try to bring it to the market, or which you should do is figuring out who's your target customer group and interview them and get them into, like, is there a real demand for that? I think, and it was always hard for me to get to customers upfront or to potential customers to talk with them about an idea and figure out if it's viable or not. How about training billions, or let's say millions, or maybe hundreds of thousands AI agents who actually act as a customer? So figuring out how does a customer work, and then like have an agent for each of them. And then you have a business idea like the ideas we have right now. You pitch them to that AI agent, and he instantly gives you feedback from basically not only 10 people, not 100 people, but let's say a million of different customers all over the world virtually.
I really like the idea because I also see that as an issue. So if you can solve that, I think it's super valuable. What I'm skeptical about is if you can make that work. If you can actually train an agent to really mimic user behavior. Because at the end you would need to like give it a certain prompt and be specific about that. But I'm not sure if you are able to control and also how a real user with that persona would actually act. Like how do you teach that an LLM, for example?
Yeah, but isn't it? Yeah, but maybe it's less about acting, but more about what people need. So let's say you have data like demographics of who are people, and then you have data about economics of what people actually consuming, for instance. So, I mean, always depends on your business idea, obviously, but I can envision that you can pretty well simulate, let's say, user groups. Like, so, I'm not that skeptical
Yeah, I
about
think
that.
you can simulate them, but you need to define them properly because you don't want this agent to fill in how this user group behaves or thinks. And I think that's where the tricky part is. So, because if it just makes something up, then you are using that for your evaluations, but it's like wrong information.
Yeah, but what I mean, how you do it nowadays, you create your persona and you try to target them on the market and try to get them into testing or evaluating your product. But this educational guest of how your persona, your buying persona in the end looks like, it's also something which comes out of your brain and I don't know, your perception of the world. So I don't know how different it is if a computer could simulate
Yeah, but
billions of those simultaneously and figure out the best.
Yeah, but then it doesn't really matter who you envisioned. At the end, it's real people who deal with that and who give you, and you really see how they interact with that. But if you have an agent mimicking a certain person, they might, for example, be biased, that they just like find everything positive, or they figure out a way how to solve things because it's still an LLM behind it. So, and then how do you judge if it's actually close to how real people would act? So I'm that's what I'm skeptical about. Can you trust the way it behaves or the way it evaluates? Isn't it always just too positive and finds everything nice?
Okay, but then, yeah, but if you have just a huge amount of simulations the machine is running, so there can be the positive guys, the negative guys, and then you have like them all in one pool who evaluates your idea. I think that still can work. And but then just think it a step further. Let not only create that personas and evaluate your ideas, but also try to get that test group as in real people out there. So once you define the personas, and then with marketing, that AI agent is trying to get those personas to test on real people if they actually click on the buy button, for instance, for your product.
Yeah, I think that's necessary because you won't get this reliable feedback from an agent. Especially it's about how to use things on a screen. So I like that hybrid approach.
Test Audience AI shows promise in disrupting the growing market research industry with its AI-driven approach. While technically challenging, the concept is feasible and highly scalable, potentially offering excellent margins and strong network effects once developed. However, the venture faces notable hurdles, including complex AI development, potential regulatory challenges, and high initial costs that may require substantial VC funding. Overall, the idea's success hinges on effectively managing these risks while capitalizing on its innovative potential in an evolving market landscape.
So, shall we continue deep diving into?
Yes, it's a nice one to experiment with.
Nice, also like it. And now we are happy that we can pitch your idea, which is probably better than ours. So send it to us and we will kill it or make it happen.